Now again, CNN, it mocks people, winners and losers of Cam Newton to England. Like he's being traded around like he's an asset. Why isn't Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill yet, associated with slavery? And again, just things like that news story came out on May 22nd, 22/5, 3 days before the reported killing of George Floyd, who supposedly had a counterfeit 20, right? And his name, George Perry Floyd, equals 201, like Harriet Tubman's 201, like Confederates 201, and this leads to the bringing down of, Confederate statues and monuments throughout the nation and all sorts of history throughout the world, actually. This has sparked a worldwide movement, this George Floyd. But again, this 201, a number we've been following since Event 201 that we've learned is, essentially the property of the Jesuits. And I'll tell you more about 201 in a little bit. But again, all these things coming together, these rituals. And with regards to the Civil War and George Floyd, his full name, George Perry Floyd, it equals 201 the big way. The small way, it equals 102. Like slavery's 102, like the American Civil War began on the 102nd day of the year. Like the Jesuits translated Art of War, which equals 102, the same as World War 102. And again, all this stuff is pointing back to the Jesuits, this code of letters and numbers coming from a Catholic monk. The calendar system we're on that it's synced up with, credited to Pope Gregory. The English language standardized at the same moment in history as the Gregorian calendar was rolling out. And then these rituals perfectly in sync ever since. Cam Newton just got traded from Charlotte, by the way, and Charlotte equals 102, and we've talked about plenty of Charlotte 102 rituals in years past. All of this stuff connected. CNN putting these stories side by side, not an accident. It's all symbolism. Speaking of symbolism that really should just punch you in the nose. On June 29th, the key dates were set for the upcoming George Floyd murder case. And the pre-trial meeting date is September 11th. What does George Floyd equal with the alphabetic order? 119, right? We talked about this from the opening moment. Fraternal Order of Police, 119. George Floyd, 119. Fraternal Order of Police, 119. Now they're setting the date for September 11th, a date written 11/9 in the majority of the world. They've already said that the officer was on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. We know the first plane hit the tower on 9/11 at 8:46. And you know what's crazy now that they've done this? I already have in my book that I'm finishing about how the day of George Floyd's killing, May 25th to September 11th this year, is 110 days. And now I'm just going to have to erase out the sentence because in the book I'm saying it'll be interesting to keep an eye on September 11th in light of the George Floyd story to see if there's a continuation. Well, now I don't even need to write that, right? Because it's happened since I wrote it, which wasn't that long ago. And what stood out to me was the 110 days. We were just talking about 110 with regards to September 11th and what Dave Chappelle did. Dave Chappelle did this skit, 8:46, talking about George Floyd's killing, saying he was born at 8:46 in the morning. And we talked about how Dave Chappelle equals 110, like Minnesota, like Osama bin Laden, like the name Rockefeller. And the Rockefellers proposed the World Trade Centers, whose demise was blamed on Osama bin Laden, and they were 110 stories tall, and it was called the New Pearl Harbor. And earlier that year, on the same day, in May 2001, the anniversary of the George Floyd killing, the movie Pearl Harbor came out, 110 days from September 11th. So that's the point I was making in the book, and now it's already happened, so it's like, well, I'll rephrase that sentence. But again, that's just why, and you guys, we've been doing this since the beginning. And for people to still be like, I'm just not sure, I don't know, is it a coincidence? It's just like, man, you got to work on your mathematics skills. You might be a great researcher, but man, if you can't do this basic math and see that this is improbable and mocking you, and it doesn't just stop there. So that the pre-trial date is September 11th, and then the trial begins on March 8th, you guys, 3/8. He was killed on 38th Street. Minnesota equals 38. Death equals 38. Murder 38. Killing 38. RIP 38. We've been talking about the movie poster, Murder by Numbers. Shout out to Miss Mildred who sent me that poster. I still need to get it framed. I need to get that done. When we have Gematria Effect News Studios, I'm going to get that poster back there. It needs to be behind at all times. But we've been talking about this for years. The E to the 3, the B to the 8. Murder by Numbers. The star of that movie, Sandra Bullock, whose name equals 83. Murders 83 the big way, 38 the small way. The song Murder by Numbers by the Police came out in 83. We've been talking about how, he was killed next to Police Cruiser 320. Roman Catholic Church is 320. He was killed next to Police Cruiser 320 after being taken out of a Mercedes ML 320. Think about the odds of that. But the police cruiser that he was first taken out by, because he was walked away and killed by the other one, the police cruiser on the corner is number 830, 830, and we've been talking about this since it's like Murder by Numbers on screen, almost in tribute to the 1983 song. And then they got Police Cruiser 830 down on the corner. And now they've given us a murder trial date on March 8th that can be written 3-8 or 8-3. And I still got people sitting back going, man, I don't know. I just don't know. I know last year you showed how on the 38th day of the year a 38-year-old was thrown off a balcony and 50 other stories like it, but I still just don't know. Got a chapter in my first book. Murder by Numbers, over 150 pages long, just that chapter alone, and I could have made it 1,500 pages long, literally, if I wanted to. Just the same patterns, the same numbers, and now this murder trial. Man. So, anyway, it's mind-blowing. You got this story, this coming out today. Hotel employee calls police on black family using the pool as guests. Some more racial divisiveness. Missy Williams Wright, her son 11 and daughter 7, like 117, like Central Intelligence Agency 117. Divide and conquer. Anyhow, this woman's name, Missy Williams Wright, 97-119, right? Civil War 97-119. George Floyd 119-43. Civil War 43-119. The Black Lives Matter car, number 43, at NASCAR in the big civil rights ritual. The next day, the market falls 1,861 points, like how the Civil War began in 1861. They said this happened at a Hampton Inn. I want you to notice that Hampton Inn has Gematria of 146 in the base ciphers, and Williamston, North Carolina is 146 as well, where this happened, and George Floyd was killed on the 146th day of the year, and Colin Kaepernick equals 146, and LeBron James instantly compared the kneeling on George Floyd's neck to Kaepernick taking a knee, and the flag's birthday's 14/6, June 14th. And we've been using these rituals for years to call the outcomes of these sports seasons, and so much of it's been factored around this. The racism, the protesting, the president. Notice this happened at a Hampton Inn, also sums to 52, like I Can't Breathe in Minnesota. Minnesota hosted Super Bowl 52. That year was all about the flag. It was all about the Eagles versus the Patriots, and we called it on September 23rd, 23/9, like 239, the 52nd prime, because the flag was sewn at 239 Arch Street in Philly. And that year, it was all about the protest, the flags from Philly. The Patriots had the flag on the side of the helmet. We knew the Patriots were in the Super Bowl before the season even began because of their connection to 98. Again, it was the 98th NFL season. Tom Brady's name, Patriots, New England Patriots. They're the most 98 team in the league. A lot to explain. But again, to look at these things and think like, well, you had 4 ciphers, so maybe. No. I've shown this 1,000 times. Try typing in things that have no connection to each other and see if you can keep hitting the same numbers. Numbers that are all connected as part of one, interlocking ritual that's meant to divide everybody with a very clear narrative, the Civil War. We've been showing how it's like this with each story after story. You just had a shooting in Louisville over the Breonna Taylor thing by the numbers. This was June 27th, the day leaving 187 days left in the year, the homicide code. The Jesuits, Society of Jesus 187. And from the Breonna Taylor killing to this killing, and this was at a protest in remembrance of her, or a gathering in remembrance of her, from her killing to June 27th, a span of 106 days. Remember, Black Lives Matter 106, I Can't Breathe 106, Black 106, Kentucky 106. I got to add to that list Prophecies 106, because all of this has to do with Acts 7:6 and Acts 7:7 in the 400 years that were hit last August 2019. But Kentucky also 106 where this happened. NASCAR, what they did with the Black Lives Matter car on June 10th, 10/6. NASCAR is also 106. Again, these numbers getting used ritualistically. And there's more to it with all of this. If you missed the work we did on Breonna Taylor and, man, what was the other guy's? Was the next guy called David McAtee? I think that was it. But we covered that more than a month back. You got this other story about the killing of Elijah McClain in Colorado. Remember, Colorado is one of the 438 states, and it's the 38th state in order of statehood. And you got this story of death that's related to the George Floyd killing on 38th Street. Again, the 438 states, Minnesota, Colorado, Florida, Louisiana, all 38. Years ago, it was Alton Sterling and Philando Castile on the same date, Louisiana and Minnesota. You know, you've had killings in Florida since this, now Minnesota. It's only a matter of time, Louisiana. And his name, Elijah McClain, equals 55, like Minneapolis, like Sigma Pi Phi, like Boulay. Remember the lawyer, Benjamin Crump of the Boulay, Kobe Bryant's death, the big Boulay ritual, his memorial on the 55th day of the year, only for them to come out and say that George Floyd had a daughter named Gianna like Kobe. And now they're saying this Elijah McClain was killed on August 24th, which is Kobe Bryant Day. Again, the Lakers originally from Minneapolis. You guys, this stuff is ritual. Sick, twisted ritual. Can't explain it enough.